about trauma. And it's quite interesting. And I wonder, Dr. Tyler, how, what you think. Why do trauma victims often find it hard to remember their traumas?
Oh, excellent question. If people come in and remember everything, well, two things can happen, or well, more than two, but the most common maybe that come in is people will remember things and vividly, as if it's locked in, and they will have flashbacks of that event, or it will be very vague and they don't remember it. So one of the things I most commonly see is people will come in their 40s and they'll say, why am I starting to remember this now? I don't really remember it. If they do, it's very vague. Part of it is, in very early childhood trauma, your brain is very smart and it figures out, if you're being abused as a child, you don't want to remember this. It's not safe to bring these memories up. And oftentimes they'll say, well, they'll go on and marry an abusive person, a husband, okay? And they'll say, why is it now that I've gotten out of those relationships now, and they fled, they got out safely with the children, why am I remembering all this now? And I say, because it's finally safe to do so. In the past, if you would have brought those memories up, where were you going to get help? You were just going to be impaired, overwhelmed, and shut down and lie in a bed overwhelmed by it, okay? So it's very, very common. And if we remember we were talking about the hippocampus, okay, and trauma, how that's involved, okay, so you lose access to some of those circuits. Now, they're not gone forever. Remember, it's atrophy, okay, so things, get smaller. So those circuits eventually come back online, but they can be damaged, and as they're coming back online and repairing, you start getting access to them slowly but surely, okay? Now, a lot of times people will say, well, I don't remember this. They want me to remember all these things. Like, I'm not going for rekindling all these memories. They were horrible the first time, so I don't go back in therapy and try to, and a lot of people assume that in therapy you're going to go relive every event in childhood and go through it step by step. Well, that was the old Freudian way of doing things. And I tell people, oh my God, it was horrible enough the first time. Why would I relive it the second? Okay. So the only time I really go back in time is when those things are chaining us from moving forward. When we can't move forward and we're stuck, then we go back just enough to kind of find where the chains are. Let's cut them and move on. Okay. But yeah, so it's very, very common. And if someone remembers everything vividly, I kind of get a little suspicious, where sometimes they'll have very good memories of others, but more commonly they'll have vague memories that they don't really remember. And as they go through their trauma therapy, it can be very, very painful when they do come up, And so we try to, there's a type of therapy called prolonged exposure therapy that's an evidence-based medicine that's been very effective. And so you'd want somebody trained in it that can be very good at it. But people can really get beyond them and get repaired from it through this, and they do get a lot of those memories back. And sometimes they start wondering, I wish I would have, if I would have wanted all them back. Okay. But sometimes you get through them. The point is to get a few of them back, and then you get through them to the other side, and they're gone, and you get release and freedom from them. But yeah, the soldiers I've treated have very, very specific. They'll talk about the smells, the sights, the sounds, but then they're baffled because, but why can't I remember this one over here where my friend died? And then what does that say about me that I don't remember it? And I have to tell them, you don't have control of your memory. Your brain does. Because they'll be shaming themselves. Probably one of the worst things I deal with soldiers is the shame they put on themselves, because when their friends die, their recruits underneath them, they can never live it down that somebody in their mission died. And I say, but last time I checked, people die in war, but not my soldiers, and they just can't get beyond that shame. And that becomes a very, very common reason for their untimely suicides. Yeah.